Yeo-woon is the next to fight. His opponent is determined to give him a tough match. The instructor told Yeo-woon to have the first move. Yeo-woon dashes straight with the intention of finishing the match as quickly as possible. The instructor was surprised by Yeo-woon's speed, but he still manages to block the attack and successfully push Yeo-woon to gain some distance. The instructor then used the 7 demon sword techniques. Yeo-woon manages to dodge the attack, then he parried the second. Being pushed, the instructor decided to use a lethal technique. Yeo-woon blocked the attack but still received some damage. Nano detected the energy being forcefully injected into Yeo-woon's body, damaging his internal organs. Nano activated the self-regeneration and Yeo-woon continued his attacks. The instructors start to feel nervous because of Yeo-woon's resilience. Yeo-woon then saw an opening and hit and broke the instructor's ribs. The cadets were surprised by the outcome of the match and Yeo-woon was declared the winner of the match. Seeing the result of the match, the instructors were now a bit nervous. Then the participant of the next match are getting ready. Baek Ji-ai's opponent is the head instructor of the academy. The instructors are cheering for their head to save their faces after losing twice in a row. The head instructor take his stance. Baek Ji-ai was amazed by his monstrous presence. Baek Ji-ai attacks first using a kicking technique. Yeo-woon asked Nano to skin every movement that can be useful in the future. The head instructor evaded every attack and counter when he saw an opening. Baek Ji-ai managed to dodge and used the hand of the instructor as a stepping stone and attacked with a spinning kick. The head instructor used key blade to pierce Baek Ji-ai's right foot. Even with his right foot's injured, Baek Ji-ai still took his fighting stance. Then he rushes forward and used a spinning kick as a feint and switches his attack under. But the head instructor used an afterimage and attacked Baek Ji-ai with Nigong. With that, Baek Ji-ai admitted his loss. Yeo-woon noticed that Baek Ji-ai complexion starts to get pale and some rash on his neck appeared. He asks Nano to scan Baek Ji-ai so that he can analyze it after the third trial. Hwa-myun then gave medicine ball to the cadets and told them anyone who has yellow name tags will be a group leader. After the announcement, some cadets went to Yeo-woon. That night, Hyo-bong convinces 3 of their dorm mates to pledge allegiance to Yeo-woon. Hyo-bong asked the cadets what business do they have with his master. Yeo-woon stopped Hyo-bong and approached the cadets. They introduced themselves and said their intention of being in a group with Yeo-woon. Yeo-woon thanked them for their intention. He told them that he is not simply looking for people just to pass the third trial. The cadets were shocked by what he said. He told them that he is looking for comrades that will stick with him through thick and thin. Yeo-woon told the cadets that he plans to change the 6 foundations of the main clan. For that, he will need comrades that will be with him on his journey. Most of the cadets back out upon hearing Yeo-woon's speech. Go Won-hul, the future first sword of the demonic god, then Cheon-wol, swears his loyalty along with Jang Woo-min of the Golden Gate clan and Oh-jang of the Treasure Sword clan. Yeo-woon said his thanks for their oath. At the Demonic Academy training facility entrance, Yeo-woon's ground had a brief meeting. He told them to memorize the entire book of the 7 demon swords. And tomorrow morning they will train together and he will personally check their movements and techniques. Then they went inside the individual training facility to consume their medicine balls. While going to the facility, Won-hul talked to Yeo-woon saying that he should be not alone because he now has a yellow name tag. Yeo-woon realizes now the real objective of the third trial. The academy wants the cadets to take each other's yellow tag. He then thanked Won-hul for his advice. Won-hul wants to use the training room next to his master, but he was surprised when Yeo-woon told him that he's using the room that only cadets with expert prowess are allowed to use. Inside the training facility, Yeo-woon can now use Chi Blade and surpass 60 years worth of Chi after absorbing the medicine ball. Yeo-woon now asked Nano to replay Baek Ji-ai's fight. Nano played the video. Yeo-woon asked Nano to stop when Baek Ji-ai was down by the head instructor's attack. He asks Nano to zoom in on Baek Ji-ai's head and neck. He saw the Baek Ji-ai's eyes being bloodshot, his complexion getting pale, and a rash on his neck. Yeo-woon now confirms what happened to Baek Ji-ai. Back at the training hall, Cheon Yunan challenged one of the instructors for the yellow tag. The instructor was amazed with his skill, stating that he is also a genius rivaling the other heirs. He then gave his yellow name tag to him because he thinks it will just be useless to continue the match. At the Demonic Academy restaurant, Baek Ji-ai is having lunch when Cheon Kyung-woon talks about recruiting him. Baek Ji-ai was pissed for disturbing his meal. The Sword Clan heir persuades Baek Ji-ai on joining his group, but Baek Ji-ai ignores him and continued eating. The heir got pissed and decided to leave him. Then Yeo-woon approached him and told him that he might die later. This caught Baek Ji-ai attention and it made him angry. Yeo-woon told him that he misunderstood what he said and told him that he was poisoned. He told him about what he saw during his match. Baek Ji-ai apologizes and tells Yeo-woon that he didn't notice any poison during his chi meditation. Yeo-woon saw Dr. Baek and asked him to check on Baek Ji-ai being poisoned. They went into the infirmary and the doctor asked Baek Ji-ai to inhale the smoke using his mouth. After inhaling, he coughs with blood and the doctor confirmed that he was suffering from micro-poison. Baek Ji-ai asked the doctor why he didn't notice the poison, then the doctor explained that micro-poison doesn't flow in the veins, it stays and accumulates in the lungs and stomach. He also said that it could be acquired through food or by inhaling a little dose while sleeping. Baek Ji-ai remembers his fight with the Poison Clan Cheon Jong-sum, when he said that the claw of the Poison Clan is like liquors. The doctor asked Yeo-woon how did he know about the poison. Yeo-woon explains that his mother died because of micro-poison and he was also poisoned with it when he was young. Baek Ji-ai bowed and said thanks, and felt Yeo-woon's murderous intent when he said that he's been looking for the source of the poison. Before leaving the infirmary, Mukiam told Yeo-woon through telepathy that he will find the person he was looking for in the forest near the 5th dorm. Then Yeo-woon replied that if what he says is true, he will bring that guy next to him. That night in the forest, Jong-sum was collecting some poisonous plants. He was surprised when someone talked to him. He tried to light the place, but the lamp flame is already weak. Then Yeo-woon appeared and asked him if he was collecting plants for the micro-poison. Jong-sum was surprised by what he heard. Then he laughs when he realizes that Yeo-woon's mother also died with that poison. Yeo-woon punches him hard, which makes him thrown far away. Cheon Jong-sum received fatal damage from Yeo-woon's attack, which made him throw up some blood. Seeing Yeo-woon approaching, he starts to panic. He wants to defend himself, but his body won't move. When Yeo-woon's about to hit him again, he manages to move and attack Yeo-woon with poison. Yeo-woon's face melts because the poison attacks have some acid in them. Nano activated the emergency defense mode, which neutralizes the poison and regenerates Yeo-woon's skin. Cheon Jong-sum can't believe what he just witnessed. He fell down in fear as he can't understand how Yeo-woon healed himself. Yeo-woon kicks him right in the face. He asks for mercy but realized what kind of situation he's in when he saw Yeo-woon's face. He attempted to scream, but Yeo-woon hit his pressure point, which made him unable to shout. Yeo-woon then decides to torture him. He started by breaking his bones. Cheon Jong-sum recalls his childhood when he saw his mother giving micro-poison to a mysterious lady. Then that lady framed his mother for the death of Yeo-woon's mom. In the end, his mom died due to the guilt of giving the poison to the mysterious lady. When he came back to his senses, he saw Yeo-woon and said to himself that no matter how he trains, he won't be able to beat a monster like Yeo-woon. Since killing is forbidden inside the Demonic Academy, Yeo-woon decides to break his Dantian. Seeing Jong-sum struggling, Yeo-woon realizes that he has something to say, so he releases the seal on his pressure point. Due to his injury, he was unable to speak clearly, so Yeo-woon asked Nano to translate for him. Jong-sum said that it wasn't the Poison Clan who killed his mother, that one of the ladies of the other 5 clans was the culprit. He realizes that he can't tell Yeo-woon that the one who provided the micro-poison was his mother. Yeo-woon activated the facial analysis to see if Jong-sum was lying. He asks again if the real culprit is one of the other 5 clans. Jong-sum nodded and Nano said that he has a low chance of lying. Then he asked again if Lady Baek Jong-sum's mother was related to his mother's death. Nano analyzed that he has a high percentage of lying. With that, Yeo-woon attacked Cheon Myung-sum and destroyed his Dantien. Yeo then brought him to the infirmary. Baek Ji and Cheon Myukam were surprised when they saw the poison clan heir's condition. The doctor used acupuncture neutralized the poison stored in his body. Then he gave his teacher's antidote to slow down the process. Yeo-woon asks Nano if he can analyze the poison using the blood on his shirt. Nano analyzes and determines the toxins in the poison. Yeo-woon then asks Nano to give him a combination of medicine to create an antidote. The doctor then smelled some herbal brew and saw Yeo-woon creating an antidote. He tasted it and was amazed that the combination of ingredients are perfect. After the brewing, the doctor gave the antidote to Cheon Jong-sum. He then told Yeo-woon and Baek Ji to leave and take a rest. While walking outside, Baek Ji asked Yeo why would he go as far as destroying Jong-sum Dantien. Yeo-woon answered that if he left him alone, he might poison more cadets in the academy. Baek Ji was amazed by his answer. Hyo Bong and the other group mates arrived. Baek Ji was jealous when he saw that Yeo-woon found people that are truly on his side. Yeo-woon explained what happened to his group. He now reminds them to be more careful now that they become poison clans, enemies. Hyo Bong is worried about what punishment he will receive from the director. Yeo-woon thinks that the rules don't really tell them to destroy other Dantians, but he knows that the academy won't overlook it. The next day, Yeo-woon was summoned by the director. Yeo-woon bowed and greeted the director, but he didn't receive any kind of greeting or reply from him. The director then told him that he will speak to him as a director. He said that destroying a Dantien has never happened before, but still the academy won't overlook at it. Hwa-myung then orders Yeo-woon to surrender his yellow tag and be detained in the empty chamber for 5 days. Yeo-woon was surprised that he was not expelled. Hwa-myung explains that expulsion only occurs if you fail a test or if you kill another cadet outside of an official match. Yeo-woon felt relief from what he heard. Then Hwa-myung emitted a strong aura and starts talking his son Bae. Hwa-myung blocked all the sounds with his aura to prevent leak of information. He then told him if he truly desires to make it in the academy, he needs to be hot-hearted and cool-headed at the same time. With Hwa-myung's words, Yeo-woon realizes that he lacks rationality. Hwa-myung looks at him and thinks that if he understood what he said, then he will be the greatest monster in the history of the Heavenly Demonic Clan. And his foundations will be his and not some drunkard master. With that, Yeo-woon surrendered his yellow tag and was put in detention immediately. The next day at night, Yeo-woon was practicing his martial arts when a boulder in the detention chamber opened. Then he saw a person radiating some killing intent. Then he suddenly floats and saw an old man. Thank you. Please like and subscribe.